emotional about the hounding of the press and the paparazzi and how they were making her life miserable. So I think I did my job.
Imagine waking up one morning and by the time the sun sets, your entire life is gone. Your career, your reputation, your marriage, your friendships, all of it, evaporated in less than 24 hours. No warning, no farewell, no second chances. That is exactly what happened to Matt Lauer. For more than 2 decades, this man was the king of American morning television. Millions of families across the country woke up with him every single day. He interviewed presidents. He covered wars. He made people laugh over their coffee and cry before they finished breakfast. He was earning $25 million a year. He was untouchable. And then one morning in November 2017, his co-hosts stood in front of the cameras with tears in their eyes and told the world he was gone. Just like that. One complaint. One investigation. 24 hours. Done. But here is what almost nobody is talking about. What happened next, where he went, what he lost, what he kept, and the life he is quietly living right now that most people know absolutely nothing about. Before we get into all of it, please take a second right now to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story like this one. Drop a like if you are already hooked and share this with someone who remembers watching Matt Lauer every single morning. Leave a comment below telling us whether you were shocked when this all went down. We genuinely want to hear from you. Now let us go all the way back to where this story really begins. Matt Lauer was born on December 30th, 1957, in New York City, and from the very beginning he was pulled between 2 very different worlds. His father came from a family rooted in immigrant values, discipline, and hard work above everything else. His mother had been a model and ran her own boutique, which meant she understood image, presentation, and the power of how the world perceives you. Those 2 forces, substance and style, would define Matt Lauer for the rest of his life. Even as a child, something about performance pulled at him. His grandfather had been a professional singer during the golden era of American entertainment, and young Matt watched closely. He absorbed how a person commands a room, how they hold attention, how they make strangers feel something. Those lessons lived inside him long before he ever stepped in front of a camera. He enrolled at Ohio University to study communications, but in 1979, just 4 credits away from graduating, he walked away. He was 21 years old and he was done waiting. He wanted real experience in the real world, and he went and got it. His first job was at a small television station in Huntington, West Virginia, producing news segments for almost no money and even less recognition. But within a year he was on camera, and within another year he had his own segment. For someone without a degree and barely in his 20s, that was extraordinary. What followed was a decade of relentless grinding across multiple cities. He co-hosted PM Magazine in Richmond, then Providence, then New York. He juggled gigs at ESPN and HBO simultaneously while living out of airports and hotels. People inside the industry started to notice that this particular young man seemed to be everywhere at once, and he was never anything less than composed, warm, and completely prepared. By the late 1980s, his reputation was building fast. He had developed something that most broadcasters spend entire careers chasing and many never find. That rare ability to make the person sitting across from him feel like the most important person in the room, while simultaneously making the 10 million people watching at home feel like he was speaking directly to them. It is an almost impossible skill, and Matt Lauer had it naturally. In 1992, after a period where the work dried up and he was reportedly close to not being able to pay his rent, NBC gave him a lifeline, a co-anchor role on a local morning show in New York. He grabbed it with both hands. The long hours, the brutal schedule, the willingness to appear on 3 different programs in a single day, all of it caught the attention of the network's top executives. By January 1994, he was named a full-time anchor on The Today Show, and everything changed completely. When Matt Lauer joined The Today Show as co-anchor in January 1997, the show was losing ground to Good Morning America. NBC needed something to shift the energy, and Lauer delivered it almost immediately. Within weeks, the ratings started moving. Within months, they had turned the tide entirely, and over the next several years, The Today Show would dominate morning television in a way that had not been seen in a generation. His on-screen partnership with Katie Couric became genuinely iconic. She later admitted she had actually had a crush on him back when he was doing local news, and their chemistry on camera was completely electric. They finished each other's sentences. They laughed at the same moments. They knew instinctively when to be serious and when to let the moment breathe. Viewers did not just watch them, They looked forward to seeing them together the way you look forward to seeing old friends. When he stepped in front of the camera during the Oklahoma City bombing in April 1995, and again during the coverage of the O.J. Simpson trial, he showed audiences something they had not fully seen before. He could carry the weight of genuine tragedy and genuine seriousness without losing the warmth that made him feel safe on their television screens every morning. That combination made him irreplaceable. He became NBC's Swiss Army knife. He filled in for Tom Brokaw on the nightly news. He anchored special prime-time programs. He conducted sit-down interviews with sitting presidents, world leaders, Hollywood legends, and people caught in the most extraordinary moments of their lives. He covered the Olympics multiple times. He reported from war zones. He sat across from public figures at the peak of scandal and asked the questions millions of people at home were desperate to hear answered. And through all of it, he earned. By the height of his career, his annual salary had reached $25 million. He owned a sprawling estate in the Hamptons. He owned a stunning farm property in New Zealand. He traveled the world. He attended every major event. He was the face of the most powerful morning program in the history of American television. But behind that perfectly composed face, something very dark had been building for a very long time. The warning signs existed long before November 2017. People who worked closely with Matt Lauer inside NBC knew things that never made it into the press. The culture around him was one where his comfort and his preferences were treated as priorities above almost everything else. He had enormous power inside that building, and the people around him understood it clearly. Then came a single formal complaint in late November 2017. A female NBC employee reported an allegation of sexual misconduct against Lauer. The network launched an internal investigation, and within a single day, less than 24 hours after receiving that complaint, they fired him. The speed was breathtaking. His co-hosts Savannah Guthrie and Hoda Kotb found out just minutes before they had to announce it live on national television. The camera captured their faces in real time as they told millions of viewers that a man they had worked beside for years was suddenly gone. It was one of the most extraordinary moments in the history of morning television. But what came after that announcement was even more devastating. Within 24 hours of his firing, multiple additional women came forward with their own accounts. Their stories were not isolated incidents. They described a consistent and deliberate pattern of behavior that had stretched across years. Some women said they had attempted to report his conduct previously, but had felt too frightened to follow through because of how much authority he held within the organization. Then a detailed investigative report came out describing specific details that made the story genuinely shocking even in the context of everything else that was emerging at the time. Among the most disturbing details was the existence of a button installed beneath his desk that allowed him to lock his office door remotely without getting up from his chair. NBC would later describe it as a standard security feature, but multiple women described it being used in a way that trapped them inside the room with him. The accounts that followed described a workplace environment built on fear. Women who had tried to speak up were either ignored or made to feel that coming forward would damage their own careers far more than his. The man who sat at the center of American morning life every day had apparently operated for years in ways that the people around him either did not know about or chose not to confront. In 2019, journalist Ronan Farrow's book Catch and Kill added a completely new and even more serious dimension to the story. It included an account from a former NBC producer named Brooke Nevels, who alleged that Lauer had raped her in his hotel room during the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia. Lauer denied the allegation, insisting the encounter had been consensual, but the account was detailed and the impact was immediate and enormous. NBC announced that he would not receive any severance payment from his terminated contract. He had been earning $25 million annually, and the network made clear that it considered his conduct serious enough to forfeit that agreement entirely. After more than 2 decades of building one of the most celebrated careers in broadcast journalism, it was finished. What happened to Matt Lauer after the cameras stopped pointing at him is a story that most people never heard. He disappeared. Almost completely. Friends who had been close to him for years stopped hearing from him. Phone calls went unreturned. Invitations were ignored. The man who had once thrived in public spaces, who had walked confidently through some of the most high-profile rooms in the world, retreated behind the gates of his Hamptons estate and essentially vanished. That property, called Strong Heart Manor, was a massive waterfront compound he had purchased from Richard Gere in 2016 for $36.5 million. 12 bedrooms, 12 bathrooms, over 14,000 square feet of interior space, a tea house overlooking the water, a heated pool, every possible comfort that money could provide. He lived there in near total isolation, occasionally spotted by locals doing ordinary things, dropping his children off at school, picking up food, always looking exhausted, always looking smaller somehow than the man people remembered from television. At the same time, his marriage to Dutch model Annette Roque came apart completely. They had been married for 21 years and had 3 children together. She separated from him almost immediately after the scandal broke, and their divorce was finalized on September 7, 2019. By all accounts, Lauer accepted her terms without significant resistance. She walked away with assets reportedly valued at up to $20 million, including full ownership of their horse farm. People who knew him during that period said he seemed more focused on preserving what remained of his relationship with his children than on fighting over property. In 2020, after more than 2 years of almost total silence, he finally responded publicly. He wrote a lengthy open letter in which he denied the most serious allegation from Ronan Farrow's book, described his relationship with Brooke Neville's as inappropriate but insisted it had been consensual, and criticized what he characterized as one-sided reporting. He admitted that he had made mistakes during his career. He acknowledged behavior that he said he was not proud of, but he also pushed back hard against the framing that had defined his public image since his firing. The letter landed with a thud. Most people were not moved by it. Farrow stood firmly behind his reporting. The court of public opinion had already rendered its verdict, and no open letter was going to change the sentence. Here is the part of the story that genuinely surprises people. Despite losing his career, his marriage, many of his closest friendships, and his standing as one of the most admired figures in American media, Matt Lauer is not broke. Not even close. His net worth as of recent estimates remains somewhere around $80 million. Decades of extraordinary earnings, even after a significant divorce settlement, left him in a position of real financial security that most people who experience career-ending scandals simply do not have. He sold Strongheart Manor in 2022 for $40.9 million after listing it at $44.8 million. He still maintains properties in the Hamptons. He spends extended periods of time in New Zealand, where he had long owned property and where the distance from American media culture apparently suits him well. His personal life also shifted in a direction nobody expected. In 2019, not long after his divorce was finalized, he began a romantic relationship with Shaman Abbas, a luxury brand executive who had been a friend of his for close to 20 years. They have maintained their relationship quietly and with careful, deliberate privacy ever since. They have been seen together at occasional events, they travel together, and by all accounts the relationship has provided him with something stable during the most chaotic and painful period of his life. By 2024, people close to Lauer were describing a noticeable shift in him. After years of deep isolation, he began slowly reconnecting with select people from his past. He was spending more intentional time with his 3 children. He seemed, by the accounts of those around him, more settled than he had been in years, not unburdened exactly, but somehow more at peace with the life he was actually living rather than the one he had lost. There is no serious indication of any return to television, no project in development, no network conversations being reported. Whether that is because the industry has permanently closed its doors to him or because he genuinely no longer wants to return is something only he knows the answer to. It would be very easy to watch Matt Lauer's story and reach a simple conclusion. Man does terrible things, man loses everything, end of story. But the truth is considerably more complicated and considerably more important than that. What his story actually exposed was not just the conduct of one man. It was the way institutions protect powerful people for as long as those people remain profitable. The women who worked alongside Matt Lauer for years were not living in ignorance of what he was doing. They were living inside a structure that made speaking up feel more dangerous than staying silent. That structure did not end when he was fired. The question of how many workplaces still operate that way, in television, in every other industry, is one that his story made impossible to avoid asking. The speed with which NBC acted once a formal complaint was filed was striking. But the question that lingered was not how fast they moved in November 2017. It was why the same speed and seriousness had apparently not been applied when warning signs appeared years earlier. Matt Lauer built a genuinely remarkable career from almost nothing. He was talented, disciplined, and had an authentic gift for connection. All of that was real, and all of it sat alongside something else that was apparently also real, something that caused serious harm to real people who have had to carry those experiences for years. Both of those things are true at the same time. That is what makes this story so uncomfortable, so persistent, and so worth examining honestly. Matt Lauer's story is not a simple one about a man who fell from grace. It is a story about power and what happens when power goes completely unchecked for too long. It is a story about the enormous gap between the image a person projects and the reality they keep hidden. It is a story about the people whose pain was dismissed for years until the moment it could no longer be contained. He is still out there, quietly wealthy, quietly rebuilding something that resembles a private life. The cameras that defined his existence for 2 decades have moved on to other faces, other mornings, other stories, but the women who came forward are still out there too. And the question of whether powerful institutions have genuinely changed the way they handle these situations, or whether they have simply gotten better at appearing to, is one that none of us should stop asking. What do you think? Did justice actually happen here, or did Matt Lauer simply trade one kind of privilege for another? Leave your honest thoughts in the comments below, because this conversation deserves real voices in it. Hit the like button if this story made you think. Share it with someone you know and subscribe so you are here for every story we bring you. We cover the truth behind the headlines, the parts most people never hear about, and we are just getting started. See you in the next one.